A Look, the podcast bringing back the personal pop culture recommendation with Rin and Rogo.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Give It a Look. My name is Roger. I'm here with my co-host Rin, who had no idea I was going to do the Bumps voice.
No.
So I've completely put her off. How are you, Rin?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Who do you think is going to win the upcoming AFL Grand Final, my friend?
Oh, that's a tough one. I feel like the Melbourne Demons will win. They played very well. I want to say the Bulldogs as well, but I think it might be Melbourne this year. It would be nice.
Yeah.
It's been a long time for them.
It has. I think it's Melbourne. I might go for the Bulldogs a bit just because I have a lot of friends with a stake in that kennel.
Yes, but I think we have a mutual friend that will probably disown us saying that we're going to go for the Demons, but
yeah, we just lost at least one listener.
Yes.
So, but that's fine. We're still on a high from our pilot episode, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
We're not recording these out of order. What are you talking about, Rick?
Not at all.
The way we work is every episode we make a media recommendation to the other person that they have no experience of, and we get to hear their fresh new take on it. Could be an old favourite, a new obsession, or maybe even just a piece of trash. So today we're sticking with movies. Rin, what was your recommendation for me this week?
I recommended to you When Harry Met Sally, which is one of my favourites. It's one of those movies that I probably watch every few months. Just something I really enjoy. You know, easy watching, nice story, makes you feel good. One of those kind of films. When Harry Met Sally. So it starts off with the two of them being actually complete strangers, and they, they've just graduated from college, and they both are going off to New York because that's where they both got new jobs. So anyway, they drive together, and, Harry kind of has this, theory that men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way, which Sally is like, oh, that's ridiculous, which Harry disagrees. They have this discussion all the way to New York, and then at the end they say their goodbyes and kind of part ways. Fast forward 5 years, they have this, meeting at the airport, and they're on the same flight, and they kind of recognize each other and have this discussion again about does sex get in the way, and Harry's kind of changed his tune like, oh no, I never said that, and Sally's very much like, yes you did. Yes you did. Anyway, and then again they kind of part ways, and fast forward again another 5 years, and they've both been in like long-term relationships, and they've both recently come to an end essentially. So Harry and Sally, they end up meeting again by pure coincidence. Yeah, they end up having this friendship where, they, start hanging out together, and they talk on the phone late at night together, and, they have all these really nice conversations and talk about their love lives and et cetera, going against what initially was said about, men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way. But they both kind of said, no, we're not having sex. They start to realize that they have feelings for each other. They end up having a bit of a one-night stand. Things become a bit more complicated. They kind of stop being friends for a little bit. They end up going to this New Year's party in the end, and Harry kind of realizes that he does in fact love Sally, and Sally does love him, and it's all very lovely, and it's a nice ending. It's kind of what you want in a nice chick flick. The happy ending where they end up together and everything. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. What did you think, Roger? What did you think of one of my favourite films?
Yeah, this is how you do it, people. In terms of this genre, this is a classic for a reason. This is kind of like the big band number or the groovy saxophone solo of rom-coms. I thought it was interesting. The characters weren't exactly who I was expecting them to be. Harry, when we first meet him, is very dry and very stoic, very much in love with his own theories and his own ideas, especially this theory about men and women. Whereas we see Sally is a bit more idealistic and doesn't really gel with this theory. She feels like it's...
I think she's quite forward-thinking in a lot of ways.
She feels like it's a bit of a dig. And we get to see a fair bit of negging by Harry. This might be the first film to feature negging. Actually, probably not. Negging's been around for decades, I'm sure, as soon as modern English became a thing. It is cool, though, to see them at different stages of their life. You know, we talked about beaches last episode and how time can change things. It can change priorities. It can change the way you feel about different people in your life. And when they're together, it's not always smooth sailing. It's a sparring match, you know, it's a tennis match. And it reminded me a bit, I watched a very short lecture the other day by the philosopher Alain de Botton. I think I'm saying that right, titled "You Will Marry the Wrong Person" or something like that. He was saying that what you really want to look for in a significant other is someone that's not perfect, but someone that will make you suffer in the way you need to grow. And you kind of see that suffrage. You see Sally being really off-put by some of Harry's attitudes and platitudes, but at the same time charmed by him somewhat. And you see Harry getting very exasperated with some of Sally's quirks and things.
Yes. Everything has to be on the side. Ice cream on the side, salad dressing on the side. I mean, fair enough. Not everyone wants all those things on top of everything. I agree with Sally in that regard.
Foods can't touch, Rin? Is that what you're saying?
Some foods can, but, you know, sometimes you don't want to be doused in salad dressing. You want to add just the right amount, you know?
You know, they even get to a point where to try and solve this problem of this attraction kind of bubbling under the surface, they try to set each other up with their friends, and their friends end up together and end up being kind of their confidants as they're going through this.
It's quite funny, that scene, because like it's just a really awkward dinner until they realize, like, it's one of those serendipitous moments where the friend who's played by Carrie Fisher, you know, quotes something from a magazine, and then, you know, Billy Crystal, like Harry's friend, is like, oh my God, I wrote that. It was like meant to be, like that they would come together. I
got to say, if any woman quoted back something that I'd written, that would probably do it for me.
Put a ring on it, man.
That would probably do it for me. So I knew where this guy was coming from. Absolutely. It's a great pairing. It's such a great pairing. And like I said, it's this sparring match. It's this kind of hard fought thing, you know, and it concludes with this interview with the two characters saying, you know, it took us 12 years to finally get to this point. Look, films, rom-coms have been riffing on this kind of formula ever since, but this did it really, really well. It was just a breeze. It was just a real breeze and a nice watch.
Did you what did you think of the casting and everything?
Yeah, like I said, solid. It's not an overstuffed cast or anything.
It's very much like stars of the 80s, you know, like you've got Meg Ryan, who was like the wow girl of the time as well. You've got Mail, like those kind of movies as well. So, you know, she's quite known for her rom-com roles, I suppose. I actually really liked the score in this film because music was also done a bit by Harry Connick Jr.
Yes.
You know, so it was quite a nice like jazzy vibe, you know, as well to it, which I quite like. I mean, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, well, hence my comment about kind of the big band thing. And there is the jazz comes back in at the climax of the film. The fashion and the hair is completely on point.
Classic, yeah. I think it's all making a comeback, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, Billy Crystal with his jeans and sweaters tucked into his
eyes as well, kind of, you know.
He wasn't in Mike Wazowski mode. And like I said, he's very dry here. You know, it's not. He doesn't seem to be improvising a lot and kind of running his mouth and doing bits here and there.
Yeah,
I could see why people really like this. You said you watch this every couple of months. Is that right?
Yeah, I probably just watch it every few months. Like, you know, when I want something to make me feel like I know how it makes me feel. You know, it makes me feel happy and nice and everything. So it's just one of those movies that sometimes I might pop it on before bed, or if I can't find anything to watch and I just want to scroll on my phone, you know, because I know what's going to happen. What did you think of, you know, that famous scene that it's well known for?
Okay, Sally's faking an orgasm scene.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's probably perfectly written for what it is, you know. She is trying to get a point across and decides to kind of embarrass him or humiliate him in public. And then,
that woman, I think the one in the restaurant that says, I'll have what she's having. I can't quite remember from the top of my head, either it was like that's the producer's mother or the director's mother or something like that. And
yes,
I'm like, oh my God, imagine having your mum in that same.
I've heard that. Yeah. This is directed by Rob Reiner, who was also on a series of hits in the 80s, like Princess Bride. So this is one of his strongest efforts. He hasn't had a flawless filmography. His 90s film North was famously critically panned when it came out. I remember seeing that when I was very, very young and not really understanding much about it.
He's directed quite a few movies that, we would all know, like The Princess Bride, Misery as well. I really like Misery. I like a bit of Stephen King movies.
Funnily enough, there's a scene in this. So this is the film he made before Misery. There's a scene in this where Harry is reading Misery.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. A bit of foreshadowing there, I suppose.
Look, I just think it was solid. You talk about tropes and how tropes in rom-coms can get tired. But then you look at something like this where a lot of these tropes came from and you realise just how much they really popped when they were new. I just think it's a great story and definitely give it a look. And if you'd like to give it a look, it's available on Australia's streaming service Stan, which I don't think is international. I think that's just an Aussie thing.
I reckon we should start getting a board of, for us, like for our own notes, give it a look, give it a miss. So, note to self.
Okay, like a database. You want to start the wiki.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, funny.
Excellent.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, cheers. All right, well, moving on. My recommendation for you this time around, Rin, was the 2015 detective black comedy thriller directed by Shane Black, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Now, this is widely regarded on Reddit as one of the most underrated films.
Reputable.
Sure, in my world. One of the most underrated films in modern cinema. So this film was really, really critical in Robert Downey Jr.'s acting comeback. This was brought out in the time between him getting out of rehab and being cast as Iron Man. Now, if this film didn't happen, I'm convinced Robert Downey Jr. would not have been Iron Man because Jon Favreau basically scouted Robert Downey Jr. from this film and casted him a few years later. And Shane Black would go on to redirect Robert Downey in Iron Man 3 a little bit further on down the track. So it's a story of Harry Lockhart, who's a small-time criminal, and it's also Christmas time. So this is my favourite Christmas movie. Small-time criminal, and there's a botched job. His partner gets killed, and while he's on the run, he stumbles into a Hollywood audition studio and gives an amazing audition for someone being interviewed by police. And as a result, he fortuitously is flown to Hollywood to do further screen testing. And while there, he meets Perry Shrike, who is a private detective, and he's going to be given lessons from Perry for this role. And they go out on what seems like a regulation stakeout, and they witness a body being dumped, which kind of drags them into the lurid underbelly of crime in the Hollywood Hills. Being set at Christmas, I think the contrast is nice because you've got this kind of, the most wonderful time of the year contrasted with the seedy goings-on of the criminal underworld, as I mentioned. He also meets an old high school flame, Harmony, during this time, and she kind of becomes embroiled in what's going on. What were your initial thoughts about this film, Rin?
You're not going to like me for this.
No, I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
I couldn't wait for it to be finished. I just did not like this film at all. I'm so sorry.
Nothing to be sorry about.
I've written a pros and cons list, so I'll read you those. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Pros. Val Kilmer's character was funny. Pro. Robert Downey Jr.'s charm and charisma. I liked that. Another pro. There's a pee on the corpse scene, which is quite interesting. There's a scene where the corpse in his bathroom, which he doesn't know, he's gone to the bathroom, and he turns and then mid-pee, kind of pees on the corpse and he's like, oh my God, what the kind of thing. And then pros. It was nice to see the old school Nokia phones again.
Yeah.
the end of my list.
Okay, no worries. Well, we'll get to the cons in a second. I'll tell you what I like about this film.
Yes.
I think,
you tell me. Because I was very I think I was very confused because I think it was very jump-starty at the start, and it just, to me, it wasn't very engaging. I also thought the opening sequence was really long, and it was kind of Bond-esque, but like it's not a Bond movie. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Those are my thoughts, but you tell me yours.
Look, it is a throwback. It's a throwback to an older style of film, the kind of detective noir. I really like the old school kind of pop art opening credits, but that's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people want to get straight into the goings on. The film doesn't quite do that. I think, first off, the naming conventions of the characters is fantastic. You got characters called Harry Lockhart and Perry Shrike and Harmony Lane, just these really kind of sing-songy, old school bourbon and cigar kind of names. I find it quite charming, but I know it's not everyone's bag. I think Robert Downey Jr., his physical comedy in this is excellent. And the script itself is very quippy, which, again, I like. It's not everyone's cup of tea,
like,
though.
In my notes, I wrote down it was trying to be witty, but without the punch. Like, I didn't get that punch, where you can kind of go, oh, that was like, how you see like English humor, right? When you're watching something and you go, oh, yeah, that was punchy. Like, for me, I was like, oh.
Was it too fast? Right. Did you feel like it didn't give everything a beat?
Maybe. And because I was watching it and I was listening to it, and the scoring I thought was very odd. Like, in the scenes, like, it'd kind of be this, I don't know, some weird, kind of music going on for a scene it didn't match, if that makes sense. But I mean, look, that's just something I picked up and I wasn't a fan of. But yeah, I think for me, the start just kind of was a bit confusing. I don't know, maybe I was just in a different mindset where I wasn't really, I don't know, like I was watching it, but it was kind of like, oh, we're here now, we're back and forth. And even he in the movie is like, oh yeah, whoops, I forgot this part. I'm like, whoa, now I'm even more confused. And I just kind of couldn't follow along to the plot exactly. I don't know. For me, it was a bit confusing.
Yeah, and there's a fourth wall break in there. And like you said, that first act is jumping between three different timelines kind of thing.
Oh, also, you know what? I'm one of these people that it bugged me. So he ends up in the hospital, right? In the end, and he wakes up and she's like, Harmony, I think it was, walked into the room. And he just wakes up from like this coma, or not coma, but like, he just woke up from being unconscious and he's like full on awake and chatting. I'm like, oh my God, like that wouldn't happen. You would be groggy AF. You know what I mean? Like, he was just like, yes, hello. Oh, nice to see you.
Rin, it's almost like you work in medicine or something.
Oh, wow. Maybe I do. So I was just like, oh, that bugged me. And also, it is not a Christmas film, all right? This does not come under the Christmas umbrella, okay?
Did I mislead you last episode?
Yes. I was just, no, this is not Christmas. Okay, yes, call Die Hard a Christmas film. This is not, okay, in my opinion. That can be under Rojo's Christmas umbrella.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that. Shane Black does like to set his films at Christmas. Iron Man 3 is also set at Christmas. He's written The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is set in and around Christmas. So it's just something he likes. Like I said, I think it's for that contrast. Look, I am a little bit Devo. We're not on the same page, but that's fine.
That's okay. That's the point of the podcast.
It is a dark film, though. Like we mentioned the quippiness, but I'll give you an example of an interplay between Harry and Perry. When Harry met Perry, if you like. They're talking about their fathers at one point, and Perry goes, oh, did your father ever tell you that he loved you? And Harry says, well, there was one time when I dressed up as a bottle.
Oh, yes.
And he asked Perry, did your dad ever say he loved you? And Perry goes, well, he used to beat me in Morse code. So maybe he said it like that, but never out loud. Now, that's dark.
That's a bit dark. Yeah, that's dark humour.
But it does get a laugh out of me almost in spite of myself.
I guess it depends. Yeah, I guess it depends who you are and what circumstances, you've encountered and come up with, throughout your life as well, with some, certain things, if you find them funny and not funny, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty dark, man.
Did you like Michelle Monaghan as Harmony Lane?
To be honest, I actually have no idea who she is. Like, I did a bit of a search, and I know I saw she's in a lot of the Mission Impossible movies, which I actually haven't seen. So that's she wasn't a face to me that I recognized, but I mean, she was okay. Again, she didn't jump out at me as like a leading lady, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing that jumped out at me from her per se.
Yeah, fair enough. I think she's great in this. I mean, again, it's a kind of tropey film. She's not quite a femme fatale, but she is, she's this person who she goes to Harry to help her solve a murder, and he ends up lying about the fact that he's a detective when he's
PI,
not.
Yeah.
And this is someone that he kind of held a torch for in high school. So
it was funny when what was it? He was like, "Oh yes, she promised," because she used to sleep with everyone except for him. He's like, "Oh, but she promised she wouldn't sleep with Chook Chutney or something like that."
His best mate, yeah,
his best mate. And then they're about to get it on kind of thing, and then turns out she did, and he kicks her out of the room.
Yeah,
you promised.
Interestingly enough, yeah, Harry says some kind of suspect things about women as well during this film, which he does get reprimanded for. It's not like he's not criticised for it. But I kind of thought it over, and I could see how Harry might be seen as unlikable by some people. But then again, all characters are flawed, and I think you wouldn't want him being a Mary Sue. He's a guy who's in way over his head, who's always been out for himself, and is just trying to stay alive in this brand new world. Let's talk about Val Kilmer a bit. I think Perry's a great character. He's also called a gay Perry because he is gay, and there are better people than us to give a more accurate take on whether this is good, positive representation. I will say, he's a very competent character. He holds his own. He is putting himself, in the line of fire, and
he's quite funny as well, which I don't think we see Val Kilmer portray a lot as well. He's kind of usually in Top Gun, for example, he's, a bit of a hard ass, was the Iceman, kind of thing. So it's nice to kind of see him in a different light. He was probably my favorite character, I reckon, in the movie, because he was just, he did it quite well. He was quite funny. But sorry, go on, continue with your thoughts.
That's all right. I think he's excellent. I agree. I think he's excellent. It's good that, his sexuality isn't the only thing about him. At the same time, though, there are points where the film does make his sexuality kind of the butt of the joke, but it doesn't feel like punching down necessarily. In fact, there's a great little sequence where he even gets one over on the bad guys, if you like, because they treat him differently because he's gay, kind of thing. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Shane Black kind of pulls it off more or less, but it's probably, this is 2005, so it's probably just another run on the ladder to where we are now, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny, 2005, and I just think, oh yes, that's when I got my first Nokia from my mum. And then I was, and then I saw them using Nokias, and I was like, oh, that's so nice, like nostalgia, Snake 2, what a time to be alive.
Makes it more interesting, I think, because they don't have the convenience of solving.
No, and that's what I enjoy about watching particular movies is gauging when it was made by the technology that's being used as well. It sounds weird. I'm just talking about how much I enjoyed seeing a Nokia phone, but I love it.
It's okay. Those things are indestructible too. It's
they are.
An apocalypse,
Oh, mate, you could throw it out a window and it'd be fine. I'm pretty sure a friend of mine did that and it was still working back in the day. You didn't have to charge it for 5 years, kind of thing. It would just last.
I think for me, it's the tone that gets me. I just really like this kind of. It's not a parody. It's got real stakes, but I just like this kind of old timey throwback kind of vibe. And it reminds me a lot. The tone reminds me a lot of one of my favorite shows, Terriers, as well. So, if you do end up liking this one, people out there, go and give that show a look. Very, very similar in tone. Is it give it a look or give it a miss?
Oh, look, it's give it a miss from me. I sound awful. Like each time I was looking at how long it was going for on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would just give it a miss from me. But if you want to watch it, you can find it on Netflix, guys. Netflix Australia. So use your own discretion.
There you go. Well, we've got one in our database. We've got one in each column this week.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all part of the balancing act. I mean, we had one in each column from last time as well. So
Yeah, that's
perfectly balanced as all things should be. Okay, well, we might wrap things up there. What's your next movie recommendation for me, Rin?
Yep. So for you, I have picked the 2008 film Twilight.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Don't give me that look, man. Don't give me that look.
I'm not giving you any
Yep.
look.
Enjoy.
I'm just surprised. Okay, I guess I need to find out what all the hype is about. Looking forward to it. I'm going to give you the 2017 unconventional love story, The Big Sick, starring Kumail Nanjiani. I think that is worth a look for yourself. So that's your homework till next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Anyway, we're going to leave it there for episode number 2. I think that's 2 in some
2.
language. Yeah, I don't know.
Do.
Hope everyone's staying fit and healthy out there. Anything else to add, Rin?
Oh, yes. Just stay safe, stay sane, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Excellent. See you soon.
All right. Bye.